Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you a long-form deep dive about Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yildirim, the leading duo of Rüzgarlı Tepe, and the moment they finally moved their story beyond the screen. If you enjoy magazine-style breakdowns told clearly for text-to-speech, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the join button to support the channel. Thank you, and let's get into it. For months, fans of Rüzgarlı Tepe have read the silences between scenes as carefully as the lines of dialogue. Glances were catalogued, interviews dissected, and offset sightings mapped into digital timelines. Yet both Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yildirim kept a disciplined distance whenever microphones appeared. What lived between their characters remained, officially, between their characters. Until last week, when a pair of late-night posts turned speculation into certainty, and certainty into something even bigger. It began just after midnight Istanbul time. On their separate accounts, within 3 minutes of each other, Cemre and Gökberk shared a single black and white photo, 2 interlaced hands, a thin salt line on the knuckles as if they had just left the sea. No tags. No faces. Only a caption that read, on her feed, "We chose each other when no one was watching," and on his, "Kept quiet long enough." That would have been enough for a week of headlines. But then, 20 minutes later, a second slide appeared in each carousel, the same hands, now with a simple band glinting on her ring finger, and a date, nothing more. Within the hour, their representatives issued a short joint statement confirming what the images suggested. Yes, they were together. Yes, this love had grown over time, between table reads and dawn call times, and yes, they had decided to marry. There was no theatrical press conference, no streaming announcement, just a clear, respectful confirmation and a request for calm. We are grateful to those who supported us while we built this privately. Please let us continue to protect the parts of our lives that make this possible. If you've followed their work, the restraint is striking, but so is the inevitability. The cultural impact of Rüzgarlı Tepe didn't rest only on plot twists and locations. It rested on a sense that its two leads were listening to each other on screen with unusual attention. Directors talk about the invisible work of scene partners who breathe together, who give and receive with the same precision. Fans recognized that long before anyone wrote it down. The quiet confirmation simply brought the off-screen chapter up to speed. Let's break down the road to that moment, because the breadcrumbs now look obvious in retrospect. First, the parallel language phase. Over the past season, both Cemre and Gökberk adopted a similar tone in how they discussed the show: gratitude, humility, collaborative credit. Whenever asked about chemistry, they avoided note-taking answers and spoke instead about trust, care, and commitment to story. None of that proves romance, it proves professionalism. But if you line up the interviews across months, patterns emerge. They protected each other's boundaries, backed each other in delicate questions, and refused to score points for solo effort. That is often the language of co-leads who are also learning each other outside the frame. Second, the mirroring posts. Their grids have never been loud, no flashy sponsorships or algorithm-chasing trends. Yet their visual rhythm started to sync: dawn photos after overnight shoots, shoes in doorways, script pages with handwritten arrows. Every now and then, a detail returned in the other feed. A scarf pattern, a coffee mug, a skyline from what seemed like the same bridge, but 3 steps apart. Fans noticed, as fans do, though the pair never rewarded detective work with winks. The point wasn't to tease, the point was to document a life that looked and felt steady. Third, the threshold moment. Crews talk about threshold moments, the split seconds between cut and reset where actors either drop it all or carry a residue. People who were there speak of something shifting during the final block of Rüzgarlı Tepe. The story was peaking. Long nights bled into cold mornings. The set carried a quiet ache, because everyone knew they were making scenes that would mean goodbye. That's when the company began to sense a new calm between the leads. Less effort. More ease. They laughed less loudly but more deeply. They stood shoulder to shoulder during notes, and when one received praise, the other listened like it was shared. Even so, nothing felt staged. No accidental leaks. No performative couple choreography. The decision to go public came much later, and, according to a person familiar with their schedule, it came with a condition: there would be no half steps. If they were going to say it, they were also going to honor it. And that's where the word that turned the announcement into a shock arrived: marriage. How did they arrive there? People who know them describe two steady streams feeding the same river. The first was time to see each other outside of costume, out of adrenaline, far from the artificial urgency of staged conflict. The second was alignment, shared values, similar ambitions, a compatible pace of life. Both wanted to build a body of work, not chase a cycle of spectacle. Both cared about keeping families close, even when schedules scattered everyone across cities. Both seemed to understand that a quiet decision doesn't lessen an intense feeling, it often protects it. Let's talk about the proposal, not the diamonds or the setting, but the tone. What filtered out later was that it happened on a day off, in a small restaurant where the owner knows how to close the back door and dim lights without fuss. There was no flash mob, no rooftop sign, no choreographed reveal to strangers. There was a conversation that began with the simplest question: how do we keep what makes us us when the work swings back into full storm? The answer, apparently, was a promise, and a promise needs a form. For them, the form was marriage. The industry's reaction was swift and revealing. Producers congratulated them publicly and, privately, exhaled, because they know stability is the rarest currency on set. Co-stars sent messages that sounded less like gossip and more like thanks. And then there were the fans. Some wrote that they felt seen because they had believed in this from the first rehearsal footage. Others admitted they cried. After a year of reading every denial as a door closing, to see a door open so decisively was cathartic. A smaller, noisier subset asked for everything: dates, venues, guest lists, designer names. The statement's request for calm was not accidental. It was the boundary line that will make longevity possible. What about timelines and wedding logistics? Don't expect a race. Everything about their approach suggests they'll set a date that fits around commitments rather than bending work to fit a party. Early chatter points to a late-season ceremony with a private civil component and a small gathering after, not because they're hiding, but because they're prioritizing the part that comes after the photos. Those small rings you saw? That wasn't minimalism for effect, it was a declaration that the meaning outweighs the metal. Professionally, the announcement changes less than people think and more than some admit. On one hand, their next scripts won't suddenly become documentaries. They will still inhabit fictional lives crafted by others. On the other, directors who understand audience psychology also understand the gravity of pairing them again. Executives are reportedly considering projects that honor what viewers now know without exploiting it, stories where maturity and intimacy are written as quiet choices, not endless cliffhangers. Expect fewer press junkets built around winking questions. Expect smarter campaigns that let the work breathe and let the couple live. Let's pause on why this matters beyond fan service. In an industry that often confuses volume with importance, Cemre and Gökberk just modeled a different path: do the work, protect the core, share only what can withstand the weather. Their confirmation didn't arrive as a tabloid leak or a half-denial designed to keep hashtags burning. It arrived as a coherent statement matched by behavior across months. Whether you're a fan of their romance or simply a fan of craftsmanship, there's something admirable about that coherence. Of course, any public relationship invites scrutiny, and with scrutiny comes pressure. The healthiest response is the one they've already chosen: fewer performative gestures, more ordinary days. Think neighborhood walks at unremarkable hours, family dinners where the loudest sound is someone laughing at a story they've heard 10 times, phone-free mornings. Think celebrations that look like work wrapped at sunset and the first bite of something warm on a cold night. If they keep choosing that, the story will keep choosing them. So where do we go from here as viewers? We watch the work with fresh context, not heavier expectations. We honor the boundary they requested. We accept that a relationship can be both deeply felt and lightly carried in public. And we understand that the caption said it best: they chose each other when no one was watching. The rest of us simply arrived later. As always, I want to hear from you. Were you surprised by the marriage decision, or did the hands photo say everything you needed to know? Do you want to see Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yildirim reunite on screen soon, or should they create a little space before sharing a set again? Tell me below, your comments drive what we cover next. Thank you so much for watching my video. If this breakdown gave you clarity instead of noise, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next long-form story. Take care, and goodbye.